In the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, one of the things that I've been saying is I've been really distraught by a lot of people's reactions, because I feel like human heart people with hearts would want to figure out a thoughtful solution forward. How do we minimize, prevent political violence like this? And how do we have a better, more productive, and more peaceful democratic process? So that what's the solution to that, right, is a part of the conversation we've had and some thoughtful people are having. And some, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, are taking it a little bit of a different route, which is, hey, maybe secession is the solution. So I don't know how that hits your ears, but it doesn't seem like the way to lower the temperature. But Marjorie Taylor Greene wrote, "They assassinated our nice guy who actually talked to them peacefully, debating ideas. Then millions on the left celebrated and made clear they want all of us dead. To be honest, I want a peaceful national divorce. Our country is too far gone and too far divided, and it's no longer safe for any of us." So, of course, anyone celebrating it is terrible, and we've discussed that thoroughly. I also wish some of these prominent Republican politicians would acknowledge that people in positions of power, elected Democrats, have been really unequivocal in their horror and opposition to the assassination of Kirk. And so telling your audience, as we keep going over, that the whole other side wanted this and they all want you dead, it feels like it's in the interest of promoting more dangerous circumstances. If all of your followers start believing that everyone on the other side, not just these fringe examples, which are bad, online of random people, that all the Democrats, despite that not showing up in positions of power, they want us dead, then what will your followers start feeling is justified? And we've seen some of the violence that maybe comes from that, from right-wing ideology. But let's discuss a little bit more in depth this idea that led to the headline. Marjorie Taylor Greene calls for United States to be split up, declares country no longer safe for anyone, because this is an idea she's kind of recycling that she's had in the past. And years ago, I think now, we talked about this, and this will, I think, help us transition to a little bit more of a lighthearted discussion of this idea that she's had for a while. So it's not just this subject, she's had it for a while. And I'm more going to take the perspective of, hey, from your premise or your framework, or really just from your perspective, here's the reasons I think that would be bad. And I won't do the whole thing I've done before as to why I personally believe that we are one America, with how much I'm horrified by a lot of the ideologies I oppose. And obviously much of the show is opposing the MAGA ideology, but that we are one people. And the path, not just logistically, which logistically alone should cause you to laugh at this suggestion, but also principally the path to a better future is as one. But I know that sounds kind of Libby and cringe, so let's take a different route, which is just, how would this work out for red states, for the red country? But first, let's remind ourselves of her argument before, when she was already saying this during the Biden administration.
Conversation, does it mean civil war? No. We don't want, does anybody want civil war? No, absolutely not.
She's like, does anyone want civil war? No is the answer, audience. I'm not going to give you a chance to answer, because I don't know what you'll say.
We don't want, does anybody want civil war? No, absolutely not. It's about avoiding civil war. Is it secession? No, it's not secession. It's shrinking down the federal government to what it should be, because right now it's an overgrown monster that is ruining everyone's life.
Okay, so that's what was interesting, is she originally posted, we need a national divorce. You'll hear her argue for it here. This is during the Biden administration. Then as she got a lot of pushback, because that sounds like, how do we get there, Marjorie? Well, not war, but like, we'll just secede. Well, then what happens when the federal government says, no, that's not how it works? I think we have an example in history of how that goes. But she was going, no, it would be, she started shifting her argument. But again, let's keep listening.
I understand, Congresswoman, is why don't they want to divorce us? As you pointed out, sad as it may be, they hate us. Okay, the feeling is mutual, at least on my end. I'm not telling everybody to feel that way. I hate you, you hate me. Why are we living together? Why are we still married? Why don't we go our separate ways?
Well, certainly we've been trying to kick them out of the bedroom and make them sleep on the sofa for some time now, Jesse, but they just don't seem to get the message. Those same people that are criticizing me for saying, hey, I need my own safe space from all of you people are the same people that are shoving their policies and their disgusting woke ideologies down our throats.
Well, the thing is, in a democracy, you can describe it that way. It's a little vulgar, shoving it down your throat. But I mean, whenever we're in power, we'll govern, and then if the American people don't like that, then maybe y'all get in power and you govern, and there's a lot of things you're doing that I really don't like. I'm going to try to oppose peacefully through our democratic process. If we get divided and our solution is breaking up in half in a logistically impossible manner, then we're never going to systematically and systemically solve the underlying problems. But again, the better argument is, hey, how would that go? And I'll get to that just in a second here. But the shift that I referenced was she went from, let's really break up as a country. And then people were started to lay out the arguments as to why that doesn't make much sense. And she went, no, I just mean shrink the government. Then why'd you use secession?
Have the power and control that they deserve.
You're talking about reducing the size power of the federal government, giving more power to the states. In other words, federalism is a good thing. What would you say about cases like we see counties in Oregon wanting to join Idaho? We see Buckhead. I used to live in Georgia for 4 years, where you are, and Buckhead wants to separate, for example, from Atlanta, have their own police department, their own government. So you have these examples where people want to join up with another state or another county or another town. Should they have the right to do that?
Absolutely. Don't we believe in freedom in America? Isn't that what America is all about?
I think we believe in freedom in America, but maybe not freedom from America. And also, who'd get to be America then? What, y'all are going to take that label? We want it. I want to be America. You can't take that. Y'all got to come up with a different name. Maybe I don't know. What's a word they could use? Because it's sort of like what's the association of states? Like a confederacy of states or something? Maybe y'all could pick that name. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. It's a joke. I'm just kidding. But let's go through this. Okay. Don't ignore that you don't want. And if you think that's too provocative, she's the one who had the Confederate flag cooler and the one who says we should still have Robert E. Lee honored in statues and stuff. So just, okay, everyone calm down. Calm down. Ugh. Let me not even argue this. You should want to stay with me, because I don't really want to stay with Marjorie necessarily. But if you start trying to play out the logistics, it's like, wait, but there are a lot of really blue areas in red states. So that wouldn't solve the division problem if we just broke up a state. Like if people who live in Austin really don't like the ideology of people in more rural areas of Texas, but we're just going to draw a line and Texas is going to be a part of the new Confederacy, then what now? What happens with all the people who didn't want to be a part of that? They had to go move somewhere else. And it's against the principle of we are America. But ignore that. All I want to focus on is, okay, let's imagine that all the red states somehow became their own country. 8 out of 10 of the highest poverty states are Republican states. So now you have a real poverty problem. 9 out of 10 of the highest gun violence states, Republican. 9 out of 10, 8 to 9, depends on which year and which analysis you're looking at, but 8 to 9 out of 10 of the highest homicide rate states are Republican. 7 out of 10 of the worst educational outcome states are Republican. Despite them banning pronouns, it still hasn't helped. 8 to 10 out of 10 of the, did I word that one of those wrong? 8 to 10 out of 10. You get my point. Of the donor states that pay more in federal taxes that then gets spent on red states that need more funding, pay more in federal taxes than they get back in federal funds. 8 out of 10, up to 10 out of 10 are Democratic states. So you have the highest payer states, many of them are blue states, are funding more to the federal government to get back. And then a bunch of the states that are really struggling are red states, and they get subsidized by that, and they receive more in federal funds. That has to come from somewhere. So it came from one of those blue states and a couple red states, and are benefiting from those funds. So what would you do without those funds? You got worse poverty. You got to address that. Now you don't have the federal support. And 70-ish% of the U.S. economy is comprised out of blue states. So you would be losing economic power. You'd be a really statistically less safe country, higher poverty country. You wouldn't have the federal subsidization that comes from blue states mostly. I don't feel like that's the best idea, even if you're a Republican, you know? While we continue through this, please do click the subscribe button if you appreciate the show. And again, I know we're navigating really heavy topics and things I'm totally disgusted by and lost by the reaction of a lot of people from, and then also trying to have some lighthearted energy as we really attempt to do to help you in moments like this. But if you feel any type of way, just understand I'm navigating the best that I can to accomplish all of those tasks. It would be a rough country. It would. They'd be struggling. But it'd be fun.
America is the greatest country in the world, and I fight the nasty America-last Democrats in Washington to keep it that way. I fight against gun control, open borders. Imagine her, Marjorie. She could be the president of the of the new country. Whoops. There's her cooler. And if she was the president, this is a gun giveaway, which again, I think we just have to be honest. There's too much fetishization of the guns, and you blowing up a gun control thing, it just doesn't seem rational. But if she were running for president of this new country, this could be her campaign ad. The trans agenda coming for your kids and women's sports. Marjorie Taylor Greene for president. For supreme leader. We only eat white bread and beef jerky. Shoo! What else? What else would be in that? We don't drink that Mexican Corona. We just drink Bud Light. Shoot, that's trans now. What beer do they like now after that whole debacle? I don't know. Let's see. What would be? Yikes. Yeah, I had this actually. You spoiled it. Jane spoiled it. I'm just saying that the last little crew of people who wanted a similar idea, she did seem to reference them on her cooler at one point, and I think that's a little disturbing. That would be the other part. The new America. White bread, beef jerky, guns, and hey, Robert E. Lee, he was just kind of a goofy guy. Hey, Robert E. Lee, did you hear he was really nice to his kids? The new America. Higher gun violence, higher poverty, worse education, but no non-binaries. I do want to play this on a more serious note, James Talarico, about kind of what I'm talking about, which is a lot of what spins MAGA into a tizzy about the panic that we can't possibly
unite around some things. And I agree, there's things I can't unite with him around. But I do think there's something, maybe not hardcore MAGA, but more moderate Republicans that we could unite around if we could get past the culture wars.
Well, I think it's interesting. I've been in this race for 5 days, and I've had a lot of interviews with national media. No one's ever asked me about the cost of housing. No one's asked me about the cost of prescription drugs. No one's asked me about the cost of childcare. The only thing the media wants to ask me about are trans athletes. And so what I would say is that the only minority destroying this country is the billionaires. Trans people are 1% of the population. Undocumented people are 1% of the population. Muslims are 1% of the population. We are all focused on the wrong 1%. Trans people aren't taking away our health care. Undocumented people aren't defunding our schools. Muslims aren't cutting taxes for themselves and their rich friends. It's the billionaires and their puppet politicians. And so we need not only the media, but all of us to focus on the real problem at hand.
This is a really strong, I've been seeing some really strong messaging from James Satirical, who's now running for Senate in my home state of Texas. See, this is where I grew up. I didn't choose to live here, but I grew up here and I love Austin, Texas. It's awesome. Would I have to go be a part of the Confederacy of Marjorie? The USS Marjorie? Where we learned that maybe think about the museums in that country. After Trump, what would Trump? Maybe he would then become the president there, and they wouldn't be teaching so much about how bad slavery was, which is his wording. That's not a bad character. He said that the museums are teaching too much about how bad slavery is, meaning putting too much emphasis on that, contrasted against all the good things. But y'all couldn't take credit for all the good things in your museums. It was a different generation, it's different people. But some of the red states maybe don't have the best track record. And we did it together. We won World War II together, you know? So you can't just, you get it. But I don't want to, that's another logistical problem. All the amazing family I have here, they have to go be under Supreme Leader Marjorie. I just don't think that that's reasonable. And so I lost my train of thought. So that's great, because I forget why I brought that up. But I do think James Satirical, because he is running in Texas, has strong messaging on, we spend so much time getting so divided and screaming at each other so much over some very important issues. Like Trump's assault on democratic norms is something that we should be peacefully pushing back against. And a lot of what the powerful 1% really enjoys, and it's even a smaller percentage than that, the very, very few billionaires who own a bunch, that they enjoy is whenever our argument is about the bathrooms, the trans bathrooms. Because then we're not having a unified discussion about how we all could benefit from better investment in our communities through more rational tax policy that doesn't allow the wealthiest people to get away with avoiding so much in reasonable taxes. And that's something that I don't think, however you feel about X culture war issue, Y culture war issue, that's kind of a funny accidental pun. XY chromosomes, trans, etc. It just happens. I can't even help it. But then even if you disagree on some of those issues, we can all agree, I think, on that, which is reining in the powerful in the interest of the many, of the majority. And so that I hope Democrats continue to push forward. Number one, because it's going to lead to better policy. It's going to lead to more pro-working class policy. And it actually might be a more systemic way to lower the temperature. That messaging, I don't think inflames people, but unites people.